So we can use the Pythagorean Theorem to solve problems involving right triangles. Here's our Pythagorean Theorem right here. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that's a fact for any right triangle. It has to be a right triangle, 90 degrees in one of the vertices. So in a right triangle, the hypotenuse is the longest side. It's across from the right angle. And with the Pythagorean Theorem, we call it C. Now there's no way you can make a right triangle without the hypotenuse being the longest. The legs are the two sides that are attached to the right angle. We call them A and B. Here we have a right triangle where we know the length of the two legs, but the length of the hypotenuse is missing. So pause the video and solve for C using the Pythagorean Theorem. So substitute in the legs, the A and the B. Set that equal to the hypotenuse, C squared. And solve, we would have 16 plus 36, which is 52. That is equal to C squared. But wait, we don't want C squared. We want just C. So, using your calculator, find the square root of 52 and round to the nearest tenth. Oh, here, so we're square rooting both sides like this. C squared, the square root of it would be C, and the square root of 52, rounded to the tenth, is 7.2. So the hypotenuse is 7.2, 7 2/10. So practice one more. Pause the video and find the hypotenuse of this right triangle. Okay, check your progress. Substituting in the 4 and the 8 for A and B, and then squaring both of those to get the 16 and 64. Find the sum of those two. We'd have 80. Now that's just C squared. We don't want C squared, we want C. So we need to square root C squared to get C. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. And the square root of 80 rounded to the nearest tenth is 8.9. 8 9/10. So in this right triangle, we already know the hypotenuse, 9. So we're missing one of the legs. And you could call it A or you could call it B. Go ahead and pause the video and solve for the missing side length. Okay, check your substitution. And remember that this time we already know the hypotenuse. We know the C. Okay, and this is when you really need to understand how to solve equations. We need to undo the 25 by subtracting from both sides. That way we're getting B squared by itself. And 81 minus 25 is 56. And then we square root because we want B by itself. And the opposite of squaring is square rooting. And the square root of 56, rounded to the nearest tenth, is 7.5. Let me show you something about how you can use your calculator to be more efficient. So in that last problem, we subtracted to the 81 and the 25. Well, you can use your calculator and just type in 9 to the second, subtract 5 to the second. So that would be a quicker way to get 56. Pause the video and find the missing leg on this right triangle. In this one, I'm showing that we can take and subtract or undo our equation, subtracting 4 squared from both sides. And then I'm just going to type into the calculator 6 squared minus 4 squared. And that is 20. It would be the same thing as 36, subtract 16. And then we need to square root the 20. The opposite of squaring is square rooting. And rounded to the nearest tenth is 4.5. So we isolated the variable of B to get 4.5 for the length of the leg of the triangle. In this one, we're going to figure out if these three side lengths could be a right triangle or not. But first, which one is the A, the B, and the C? Well, I know the hypotenuse has to be the longest, so 15 is C. A and B won't really matter, but usually we pick the smallest one to be A and then the next one to be B. So now I'm going to substitute them into the Pythagorean theorem to get 9 squared plus 12 squared equals 15 squared. I'm also going to type into the calculator all at the same time the 9 squared plus 12 squared, and that equals 225. 15 squared also equals 225. So these are equal, so it fits the Pythagorean theorem, and yes, it is a right triangle. Now pause the video and you try this one. Is this a right triangle? Okay, check over how you did. You would have 8 squared plus 9 squared equals 12 squared. And the reason we picked 12 to be the hypotenuse is because it is the longest side. Now typing in the calculator 8 squared plus 9 squared all at the same time, we get 145. And 145. And 12 squared is 144. So these two would be not equal, and no, this is not a right triangle.